Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sarah Jane, and I am delighted this evening, because it's evening for me, to be joined by my co-hosts, Scott. Scott, welcome.
Thank you.
And David. David, welcome.
Hi there.
And I'm going to hand over to David to introduce our guest for this program, which is called Aspects of Past Lives.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome, Wayne. Now, Wayne has really put himself out here. So he's currently in Malaysia, and it's 2:30 in the morning. so we got to keep talking to him to keep him awake. Anyway, Wayne and I met over in the Netherlands when I was living and working out there. And Wayne happened to come past my shop at the time. And I was trying to think back, Wayne, how long ago it was. And it must be 12 or 13 years since our paths crossed. And I cannot believe, but we've kept in touch. Wayne first came into the shop and we got into the discussion of spirituality and healing and all the aspects. And it was at that time, I think, Wayne, you was really focusing on your healing work. You'd brought a healing modality, channeled this healing modality through. And then recently we caught up in Edinburgh when you was on your flying visit across here. And we got into the subject talk of past lives and aspects of the past lives. And it was really, really fascinating. That we may go into that a bit later. So here was when I invited Wayne along to today's conversation. So, Wayne, if you could tell everybody a little bit more about yourself and your interests and maybe why you have chosen this particular subject for this evening.
Right. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Wayne. I'm currently in Malaysia. And yes, it is 2:30 in the morning. I've got lots of coffee, but here I am. I suppose we'll say that my healing journey began about 25 years ago, I would say, when I was being brought forward by Spirit to the journey. I started doing quick readings, intuition, and then I branched off into mediumship at that point. I had learned healing. I did Reiki, but I wasn't satisfied with Reiki myself. And I think I made a wish to Spirit. And one day I was gifted with this healing ability. With this, I started teaching around Europe, as well as spread this form of modality healing all across the world. What is interesting is that from this form of healing that I've taught, that people have found it quite unique, quite different, but something else has already happened with them is that they develop spiritually very quickly as well. They develop intuition, mediumship, spirituality, understanding, and they could feel and see vibrations more so than other modalities, I would say. But in this aspect, I learned that through myself, as well as I'm not only the teacher, but I'm still the student myself. I'm, quite fascinated by everything. I started getting images when I do readings and sittings for people that I'm beginning to see their past lives. But it's not the past lives that people think one-to-one. Oh, we all have heard this. How many people have been Cleopatra? And now that I understand it, it's not only one-to-one, but we all have bits and pieces because we ourselves are living in these bits and pieces. And therefore, I call it aspects. And when you put the pieces together, it actually makes more sense rather than saying that you were living in this life in this form. As we progress, we also understand of how our lives are, how multidimensional energies are, and therefore it makes more sense for me to bring this to people in talking about the aspects of everyone's past lives.
That makes huge sense to me because of thinking about how time is. We think of time as being linear.
Right.
And time isn't. Everything is happening at the same time. So the me of 5 minutes ago is the me of now is the me of 5 minutes hence, you know, sort
Absolutely.
of also each life. So those lives, I suppose I think of, you know, our ideas as being, our dreams as being hints from our so-called future selves. It's just that aspect, you know, beyond us but that we're still all living at the same time, which I know is very difficult for the human to accept, that a life I lived 2,000 years ago is happening at the same time as the one I'm living now.
Absolutely. The way that I want to describe it is, think of us as pixels on a television screen. And it's all these little bits of information that when it comes together, it forms a picture. And if you were to describe this to someone even 20 years ago, when our televisions, you know, the old knobbly ones that you have to turn the dial and try to bang on the screen to get something clear. And now what do we have? We have gigantic screens that give thousands of pixels, millions of pixels, and all of this comes together. So we know in this time that as technology advances, so has our understanding of how spirit works. And it's not, as I said, it's not a one-to-one basis. It's this very big combination of everything together. How many times have we talked about, oh, I'm living in a different dimension, or you would try to go into meditation and you go, oh, I'm gone somewhere. And it's those times that we've gone somewhere, we're actually living a different time, a different dimension, a different process. How we see ourselves when we go a deja vu moment is not due to a past life, it's due to a present life that we are living in this time. So when I read someone, when I see someone, and, you know, I'm natching away and I'm chatting with them, I get bits and pieces of information fall into place. And when that moment happens, I will say, well, does this make sense? Because I'm seeing this image of you living in this life in this particular time. And then the recipient or the poor person that has to listen to me will say, oh, yes, it does make sense because I lived this and now it makes total sense why I was getting these feelings. And it just pops into my I suppose, my brain. And we're always like a knowledge of information that comes to us, but we just can't filter it out because we don't know what is happening and the feelings that we're getting. And therefore, now's time is to be able to filter it out so that we understand and we can appreciate how complex it is. So, for example, I mean, David, I've had this conversation with you before, and can I bring that up about the Chinese?
Yes, by all means.
Okay. Well, I was doing a reading with David, and all of a sudden I'm getting these flashes of Chinese. I mean, no, yes, it's not a similarity to me, but I was getting flashes of, the chinoiserie, the little snuff bottles. I was getting images of paintings, Chinese paintings, but more so inside the royal palace, and women with beautiful clothes and silks. And I just keep seeing these images, and I'm thinking, okay, what does that have to do with this white Caucasian man from Scotland? And so I said, well, does it make sense to you? I'm seeing all these Chinese images, and I feel that it has to be one of your lives. And David, what did you say to me?
Well, when I was small, I think this was the answer, I think, at that time. When I was small, all my clothes, I wanted to have Chinese figures on them. I wanted to have, and I've still got, and I bought recently in the past year, shirts with the Mandarin collars and the dragons and the Chinese embroidery and everything on. There's just such a pull for that. And there was that real strong period in my earlier life for the Chinese aspect or the energy frequency to come through.
Right. And that was basically what I got. So there is a part of it that comes through. It's not to say that he lived his entire life with that, because that aspect came as an information, and we can call it a pixel of information that pops in and says, okay, this is relevant for this lifetime. But we also might go through different aspects that has similarities of what we are going through, whether we have moments in time that we can't move forward and we have this fear, i.e., I'm just giving an example, fear of water, for example, and as not to say that, yes, you drowned in this life, but it has to say what happened to you in these other lifetimes, and therefore it impacts on you in this life.
Yes,
does that make sense?
Yeah. Scott, I see you writing down.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. When you get it, I don't have sight, but I do have a knowing. In other words, okay. I get information to how do you see or observe or experience when you're getting those vibrations?
Actually, I don't know. It just comes to me. It comes to me in visions. It comes to me as a knowing. I see numbers. I see dates. I get information as it comes, as though it's playing a video in my head. I occasionally get numbers that I can't explain what the numbers are or were. One of the interesting things of having the aspects of the past lives is that I was doing a sitting for a woman who lived in Australia at the time. And I was telling her about a whole bunch of things, and this number kept popping up into my head. And I said, I don't know what the number means. I have no idea. Just write it down and we'll see. And she was also born in Malaysia, but she and her family moved to Brisbane. And she said she could never feel comfortable in Brisbane. And so she and her sister decided to move to Melbourne. And then she was also telling me about how she would get woken up every night between the hours of 5 and 7. And she couldn't understand why. Anyway, while I was doing the reading, and I said, you know what, I feel that this number is somewhat connected to you. And, she said, well, we'll see what it is. So usually, for me, I have to Google information myself. I said, okay, let's Google this number. If you put in the number, the first thing Google does is that it searches whatever that number is. And I honestly forget what the number was. I think it was a 532 or something like that. But when that popped up, it was a galaxy. It was this galaxy, which usually starts with the letter N and then followed by a number, and it will pinpoint that particular galaxy. The interesting thing upon reading this galaxy is that it's a galaxy that can only be seen in the southern hemisphere. And in the southern hemisphere that can be seen, not only it cannot be seen, let's say, with southern hemisphere, Brisbane, because that's where the family went. It can only be seen in Melbourne. It cannot be seen. And guess what? It only rises above the horizon between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Wow.
And that was the time she wakes up and she gets downloads. And that was basically, I said, okay, that's the galaxy that your energy is connected to. And therefore, that's your moment of inspiration. That's where you get your power from. And totally up to you.
I
Yes,
was going to ask you, my second question, by the way, was because I've had experience where I was brought to another galactic moment in past life for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was literally brought to tears because I was welcomed home on that planet as if I was coming back. And since went back through meditation, and was given a scroll that said, "These are your gifts." They were symbols, and I couldn't understand them until I was working with a yogini, and she said, "Oh, those are universal symbols. They are for teaching, for writing, and for healing." And I went, "Oh, okay, that makes sense then." But it's amazing how you can bring those different aspects. And I think a lot of people, I don't know how many, I'm sure more than normal who listen to you, Sara, are able to say, yes, galactics, yes, I lived on another life on other planets and all of that. But I think for the casual viewer, that's kind of a kick in the head. That, past lives. Oh, I'm not Buddhist or Hindu. I don't believe in past lives. It's like, well, whether you believe it or not, they're there.
It's there. It's there. The information is there. Okay, I'm just diving into this now, Scott. Right now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to do a cold reading on you, but as you're talking,
no,
I'm getting bits and pieces of information that's coming through. And one of the aspects that's coming through has to do with sound, in particular, flute music. And to me, it literally, to me, it sounds like a flute, which is like a long bamboo flute, which is, Oriental, Asian. So it could be Japanese, could be Korean, but also at the same time, it's one of those flutes that you hear in the Andes.
I just got back from Peru.
Okay, it's in that particular aspects, and therefore it's that kind of sound that you hear. And I feel that has a vibration around you, then therefore it's I want to say that in one of your aspects of past life that you were either an Andean Sherpa, I'm going to say that, a mountaineer, and you were guiding, dark hair with I don't know, I'm sorry, my geography is really bad, but you basically guided people, or you either lived in the mountains, and it feels to be very rocky, and I'm just feeling around there. But it has to do with sound. It has to do with the flute, and I'm not sure if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I also last year was in the Himalayas, and for some reason, and I love the beach, but I've been keep getting drawn to the mountains, So I was in the Himalayas last year and in the Andes this year, and there was a lot of flute music in the Andes, and it was just captivating for me. And you're right. I felt there was a sense of
At
feeling.
home.
So, sorry, Wai.
Yes.
I
No.
was going.
Yes, go on.
Sorry, we got a crossfire there. Is it? I know I've had this experience with you, but asking on the question, those aspects of your past life when they come up, is it a good time then to sit down with that vibration or that frequency and tune in and bring forward what is needed maybe for you? You know, it's that time to meditate in that space when these flashbacks or these synchronicities with past lives come through. Does that mean to sit in that frequency because there is something more for you? Does that make sense?
For me or for the recipient?
Well, for the recipient, yeah.
Right. So, as Sara says, we go through. Time is not. What's that? What is it? It's linear. So yeah. So it all happens at the same time. So therefore, your soul actually is, the information board, and said, okay, I'm just going to lay this out to you. You're seeing your past lives, but I'm also showing you your future prospects. So, i.e., this is what is shown you to understand your past, therefore will show you the future. So the future is basically like you want to know what is the path that I'm leading? Is it the correct path? What is my calling? What is it I want to do? The past lives will show you this is what it is. And to not say to concentrate, but to understand what it is, I see a vision of your future. Now, it is entirely up to you if you want to, follow that calling, or if it doesn't resonate with you, no, that doesn't make sense, so therefore you don't. But what I was wanting to tell Scott is that as I'm reading into your past, your future popped in, and I want to say, Kilimanjaro. Does that, and I feel that will either be your next step or that's something that you will find there.
Thank you. It is one of those next.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And the other aspect was future, as Sara was saying about multidimensional memories, and deja vu is almost, for me, always represented memories of my future.
Right. What I want to tell people is that my interpretation of past is because it can very well be the future. It's because we don't know what people wear in the future. I might see a very desolated landscape and, sackcloth. So my geography, like again, my history isn't very good. So I would place it somewhere in the past, but it could very well be in the future because we really don't know what's happening. I only get a feeling as to whether it is a past of someone's lives, but to also understand we are currently living not just one life. We all think, this is the life that we're living in. When we go to sleep, we go somewhere else. And what has been happening, especially for this year, is that the two dimensions are getting close. Oh, actually, it's not two dimensions. There's actually 5 dimensions happening at the same time. It's getting closer and closer. And how many times have we woken up from our sleep, sat there for a while and thinking like, okay, which life am I in now? Therefore, it is, especially this year, it's getting so close that sometimes when we close our eyes, or well, at least for me, I close my eyes, I'm gone into that other dimension. I'm seeing the same places, the same landscape, and I keep being brought into a very dystopian like of Hong Kong. Because when I'm in that space, I feel that I'm in Hong Kong, but I'm looking around and it looks like, the movie Blade Runner. It feels that sort of dark imagery. And it's not only one time that I've dreamt it. Every time that I dream, it's to the same place. So ultimately, there is an understanding of what's happening with that aspects of our lives in this lifetime too.
Question.
Yes.
Working with people, especially with the lady who's my Reiki master, and she's worked with people, and she said there's something in your back. You in a past life, you've died because of an arrow in your back or a spear in your back, and you're obviously holding that energy of whatever that was that killed you. You're holding that, especially if obviously it's something like the neck and the shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there are those who can support people with helping to let that energy go, to release that energy from whatever area of that body. Mm-hmm. I know you've talked about water and drowning, and so all these type of things, people have fear of water. Actually, is it something to do with this life, or actually, but we keep using the word past lives, because is it not really aspects of lives rather than past lives or future lives? It's just the lives that are happening.
Well, right, of course, if we say aspects of lives, I don't think we'll get much of an audience. We're not going to talk about our lives. So yes, what you say is absolutely true. Because we don't understand of past, but everyone wants to know, especially in the Asian/Oriental culture, the reason why I'm living in this life is because I suffered in my past life. They're not going to say I suffered in aspect of one of my lives, because they can only understand what is the past. They can't see what is the future. So yes, what you say is absolutely true, Sarah. It is an aspect of our multiple lives, and that influences us, if you want to call it our karma. But, well, I don't want to use the karma too much, but rather it is an aspect, and therefore bits and pieces. I don't really want to go too much into, yes, you had a pain in your neck and etc., because that goes into the other dimensional shift and other dimensional talk of contracts, of what you were in that life and what you did in that life. And you can also have spirit entities from those lifetimes follow you through many lifetimes. They don't follow you as the person, they follow you as the light. So it's almost as though that each person has a particular light frequency and it follows you. But that is a completely different talk, and that we can go on forever about that. But yes, you do have that talk of information. One of the aspects that I did a reading on person was to a monk, to a Oriental monk, and he had a problem with his back, and a friend of mine was the doctor, and she said, you've got to talk to him because my medication is not working on him. Can you just talk? So I gave him a little talk, and in that description I have, I basically had my vision. And in the vision, he was a young lad of about 18, and he had a brother in the age around 14. And again, I had a year. It was, I think, 1896 or something like that. And I felt that it was in England. And I said, it's not London. It felt further north. It was around Blackpool. And you were wheeling your brother down, and because your brother had polio, and therefore you're pushing him. And your brother was playing with a watch. And the watch fell out of his hands and it slid onto the river, and the river froze. It was a frozen river. And you said to your brother, don't get up, I will go get a branch. But your brother didn't listen to you, and he decided to climb onto the water, and the ice broke and he fell in. And you were shouting, and you decided to jump in. But guess what? You couldn't swim either, and the water was cold. And in that instant of death, you said, it should have been me. And at that moment, your souls switched. You picked on your brother's soul. So I looked at this Oriental monk, and I said, your pain started at the age of 14. And he looked at me like, how did you know? I said, because you took on your brother's soul. And I said, the only time for you to correct that is that's why your medicine couldn't work on you, because the medicine was addressed to you, but you have your brother's soul with you all this time. And the only time to reverse it is you have to, as David said, you have to understand, meditate, and therefore release it. Ask for forgiveness, and therefore just say, I return your soul to you. It took him a couple of tries to understand what I was telling him. But the moment he did that, the medicine started working.
Wow.
It's just...
So I did also Google the dates, and thank British historians because they note everything down. I did Google the dates, and it did say in this particular year, it was the coldest winter in Britain. The rivers froze. And I think I also looked at the dates. 2 brothers drowned at Blackpool, and it's there in black and white in history.
Extraordinary.
What
do you call your modality?
Pardon?
What do you call your modality, by the way?
I just call it aspects of past lives.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. It is incredibly interesting.
I call it aspects of past life. It's gone through many different variations of name. One of them is soul contract. One of them was soul contract, and another one is just aspects of past life. It just comes to me as I do readings. So just some people who want to know they want to know everything, and sometimes I say I can't give you anything else more than what is shown in front of me. But to the question, to a lot of people said, "Oh, was I ever a dog, or was I ever a cat?" And I said, "No. We have a different vibration, so therefore I only see the human vibration. When we talk about extraterrestrials and other dimensional beings, yes, that I can see, but I cannot see your form. So I don't know if you're a blob or a starfish or something. I don't know. I can only feel the vibration. So to those people who think that they might be a big bird, know that you're not a bird. You are human, or you're a light, or you are a vibration of that sort."
It's so interesting because this can be so therapeutic in so many ways and healing. And in other ways, it opens up more and more questions for people, doesn't it?
Mm.
And I know sometimes we never know really how many lives we've led or living, shall I say.
Yes.
So I know when it came to the reading with me, there was a multiple of lives that were coming up to you. Yet some people may just have one or two lives that come through, but it doesn't make it any less. They are still as important as if 20 lives come through.
Right. One of the interesting aspects, and probably some of you might be asking, is that, oh well, how come he gets to get all this information? I want to learn it too. Yes, you can learn it. It takes a few, lessons, more than a few lessons, to understand what is it that you're getting. As we all know, everyone's born psychic. Everyone has the natural ability of intuition. But it's the amount of information that we're getting that we can't filter what is coming and what it isn't. A lot of my students that have learned healing, they have actually developed this form of reading as well. So it almost is the same of what they're getting as the information as they're doing their sittings and readings, that they're getting the same information as I am. How you interpret it will be your own, but basically the tools are there that I will tell you what is it that you would expect, and therefore, it's not one of those one-off incidents that I know that many people can learn how to do this.
It's such a minefield, and it is, as you said earlier, quite a lot for people to take on board if they're just coming in to understand this. But we know, and I think we've all had, it's almost going back to the deja vu, but it's almost you wake up in the morning and you have to gather your thoughts in, and you have to gather your energy in. I know I have to do that in the morning more and more. Maybe an age thing, but as well. However, you have to sit there for a minute and just gather your thoughts and do whatever you do. And it is, you're pulling in because you've been out visiting or you've been wherever, interfering in somebody else's life, perhaps along the way.
Yes.
And you've got to come back. And it does. And I think people that are waking up, maybe you can confirm or deny this, Wayne, but people who are waking up and saying, oh, I've got to gather myself together, maybe they are beginning to experience the soul going out and being a part of these other lives.
Yeah, and what I say now is that we all are living a minimum of 5 lives at the same time. So there'll be 5 of you, David, somewhere else, and there'll be 5 of you, Sarah, and 5 of you, Scott.
Wow.
And they don't necessarily look like you, but there is, like I said, there's a part of you that, it's a deja vu moment, but it's not a deja vu moment of the past. It's a deja vu moment of the present, that somehow you have come across this space before in time.
It's amazing. Hey, just wanted to relate something. A friend of mine was a medium. I was working with her, and we were sitting there, and she said, and I can't see my guides. I don't have those visions. I don't have. And she's talking to me, and then she's saying, well, no. What do I mean? What are you talking about? And she's kind of arguing with this older gentleman who came and said, tell him he has to go to Penang, to the Burmese Buddhist temple. Tell him he has to go to Penang. She says, I don't know what Penang is. I don't. And he walks off. She's exasperated, and she says, I don't know what he's talking about. So thank goodness for Google. So we looked it up, and in Penang, there was only one Burmese Buddhist temple.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, I don't know what that means. And I said, why am I supposed to go there? He said, you're going to get aspects of your soul. And I had never heard of that before. Well, I had just gotten back from Vietnam. We did 17 days in Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia. And I felt at home. It was very odd, but I felt very, very close to there. So don't you know that a week later, the gate one that I went there with sends a thing that says Singapore, Malaysia. And I went, oh, really? I tap on it. I read it. The last stop is Penang. 3 blocks from the Buddhist temple is the hotel. And I said, all right, I got it. I got to go. All right. So I looked at my girlfriend and I said, she'd never been out of the country. And I said, how would you like to go on a plane ride? She said, okay, where? I said, Singapore and Malaysia. And I said, it's only 24 hours to get there. Only 24 hours to get there. You'll be upside down. You won't know any of the food. You won't know any of the language. Do you want to come? She said, sure. So we went, and the last day we were there, the guide who knew why I was there brought the entire group to the temple.
Mm-hmm.
There I am, a 40-foot golden Buddha, absolutely stunning. And I'm standing there and I'm going, oh crap, what do I do now? Nobody ever told me what I was supposed to do. So all I did was grounded myself, and I invited those aspects of myself to come. And 3 balls of light, I intuited 3 balls of light. They came back into me. And it jarred me physically. And I had never heard of any of soul retrieval. I'd never heard of any of these aspects. When someone dies tragically or suddenly, not all their soul leaves with them, and that they kept in the temple and in safety. And for me to get further on my journey and to reach enlightenment quicker, I was to take these in. And it took me probably a couple of weeks to kind of get my balance back after that. So all of these things happened. People have looked at me very strangely because someone I couldn't see told me to do something I had no idea, to go literally halfway around the world to do this, and that I was crazy enough to go and do that because I had the faith of it. So I say this and give you this story because I wanted to prove to people that all of these energies are here. These are different aspects. These are past lives of mine that were there, and that we are in multiple dimensions at the same time. We are in multiple lives at the same time, and we have been this way. We have been through this in these different aspects. If you see a child, and I saw this in my grandchildren, there are souls that have been here before, and then there are pretty new souls. And you look into the eyes of a newborn baby, and you can tell when someone has been through this way again already. And they know things much sooner than they ever should. They just understand. They have an understanding of things. And it's really, so I wanted to tie these things in to really show people what you're saying really has aspects in our everyday lives.
Right.
And why we are pulled to certain things, why we have certain rituals, why we have certain tastes, why we like certain colors or music or have those pulls to different things, is they are all a part of us. They are aspects of our life.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. And I love the way that you draw all of these things in to your practice and your vision, and how you can help heal people by showing them and giving them aspects of their lives.
Right. And like I said, a lot of these, some of the future suggestions, you don't have to follow it, but it's ultimately your it's just a suggestion. I said, this is what I see, and therefore it's up to you whether you want to follow it. I've had some people go head on and said, yes, this is what I want to do. And as what Sara said, it had to do with a particular woman. She had pain. She couldn't understand why she was having pain. And I said, you were a ballerina at Bolshoi and you fell and you injured your hip. And she did tell me where her injury was. And then she said, yes, it is my hip that's having problems. I said, well, that's the issue you have. But right now in this lifetime, you have to fulfill that and you have to start dancing again. So did she take my suggestion at heart? Boy, she did. At the age of 78, she started salsa dancing. And within a month, the pain disappeared. So I'm not saying that you should do salsa dancing, but sometimes it does.
It's Sara.
Yeah, I was going to say, thoughts occur to me. Thank you, David. Thoughts occurred to me when I'm working with people and I support them to reconnect with their younger self. So we're actually talking, if you like, this lifetime.
Yes.
The way I view things is, as a child, when we don't know how to deal with something, and especially if we're then being told that that's a not good aspect of ourselves, and especially if you're a people pleaser, as I was, because we don't know how to deal with what's going on, it's almost as if we disconnect ourselves from that aspect of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And when I invite people to reconnect with their inner child, and it's usually it ends up by being with these aspects. And as the child comes to trust the adult, because of a beautiful quote by Alice Little, as a traumatized child, you were desperately waiting for the adult that would come and save you. What you didn't understand was that it would be yourself as an adult.
Yes.
And that is beautiful to me. It struck such a chord with me. And I support people to do that, for the adult to connect with the child, to build the child's trust in them. And when the child is ready, they can actually reintegrate. So that separated aspect can reintegrate. Now that is this lifetime, but obviously to me, that's what you were saying, Scott was saying about sort of soul retrieval. Maybe it's an aspect of you're being able to do that, but being able to connect with the child aspect of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That is
leaving parts behind.
Yeah. I mean, as I said before, it's only with the recent understanding of, suddenly there's all these time travel movies that seems to play with your mind. Like, you will be seeing your younger self and you've come to warn them because of this calamity that's going to happen. And, you're sitting there and thinking like, how can this be possible? But it's because of our progress with understanding as that, yes, let's try to bend that mind thoughts of how it is. So there are still many parts of the universe and of the soul that we don't understand. But as we progress, it will come into play that, yes, if we do this differently, then maybe this will work. So every healer, everyone that we work with, we have a knowledge of sharing, will come together. And it's also, we're all parts of the jigsaw puzzle. And by getting together and understanding, we may have a solution or not.
I want to just say to you, while we've got time, there was aspects of my reading with you, Wayne, that I want to confirm and that has come into being. I won't go into it deeply, but I know we had a number of past lives trying to nip your head, or trying to come in. And I've been a wanderer, wherever I lay my hat, and I connect to so many places. And now just sitting here thinking, there was so many number of lives of where, if, wherever they were, whatever time they were, all the now. That is resonating that, yes, I'm linking in to many aspects of my lives at this moment, because wherever I go, I feel I'm at home. But there was an aspect that came out that you said about standing up and talking. I remember that this figure,
Yes.
this symbolic figure, was standing there, and it was about using my voice and getting out and talking. And I thought, I've given up all my workshops, but after I met you in Edinburgh, I got taken out, went out back to the Netherlands, and there I got asked to go out and do talks and seminars on what I've learned to help other people along the way. And it just fell into place. And so you don't always, when you get these aspects, they don't always register at the beginning. They may take a little while to think, okay, that space is open now. Now we can get in. And it was so fascinating. So I wanted to pass that on a personal level, but also to tell people, these aspects could be leading to something if you open your heart to it.
Great. Thank you, David. Thank you for confirming. Because when I give readings, I'll just say, well, just take it with a grain of salt, because I don't know what that means for me, but I hope it makes sense to you sometime. And having said that, I did a sitting for a woman in Hong Kong a few years ago. It was the first time. She's never had a sitting before, and I was getting information. Literally, I was telling her the story of Star Wars. Literally, that was her aspect of life. And I sat there, and she sat there with a little teary-eyed, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't tell you anything else. This is all that's coming to me. Well, off she went. But apparently, a few years down the line, she received an epiphany, and all of this information started coming through. Astrophysicists, astronomy, all this information started coming through, and she got into literally the stars. And that was the information that I got from her friend. Oh yeah, what you said to her 5 years ago all came into place. She understands it now.
Because there is no such thing. We go back to linear. Sorry, Sarah. We go back to linear. There's no such thing as linear time, is it? It happens when it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The saying, universal divine timing. Yeah, you've been given the information, but just be open as to when that will sort of kick in.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So sort of. Yeah, thank you. Anybody got any other questions for Wayne?
I just wanted to say that if we stayed another couple hours, I know it's only almost 3:30 in the morning. Stayed a couple hours, it wouldn't be bad at all. But I because it is so fascinating in the work that you do and how you present, and much like all of us are Reiki masters and have done the work for a fairly long time, and we are only instruments, and we can only give people what they are willing to accept. We are only there. We're not there to necessarily interpret it. We're just there to give it. And I thank you for your gift. I thank you for sharing it. And I'm glad that you're being exposed on a grander scale because of the thousands and thousands of people who watch this program. Hopefully not a slight exaggeration, Sarah. these conversations really hopefully open people up to the possibilities. And I want to say thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Scott. Can I just have a brief thing? That in my journey, as I would say, I do something called, as David mentioned earlier, is that how we met, and I was doing a healing modality. In that healing modality, I do a demonstration, which I call a chi reactivation. I basically re-energize your chakras, but your basically your energy factors. And usually what happens is that a few things might happen. You either fall asleep or you get completely energized. And during that energy synthesis, a lot of things happen and you start connecting the dots and all that. And it's almost that your soul gets reawakened. So I was just telling, I think, Sara, that I haven't done this for a long time, but I think it's time, Spirit saying, like, I think it's, 10 years is enough for you to be sleeping. It's time for you to get back into the circuit. So.
Good. That's funny.
David.
Yeah. First of all, Wayne, we don't catch up enough, but your life is really, really busy. And everybody's life is busy, but I just want to thank you because this is a passion. If anybody can feel it through this medium, there really is a passion with your work, Wayne, and it shows and it tells. And we are here, and I want to thank you for sharing that because you can feel it's from the heart, but also for staying up till 3:30 in the morning, and that is dedication. It really is. And I hope, as Scott says, your work reaches out and it is found more, because there is so it is so much needed now. This work is so needed to heal right from the inside, and for people to understand they are more than just the figure they see in the mirror. And that gives them self-empowerment as well. And this aspect of your work will certainly do that. So can I thank you, Wayne, from my heart for being here and accepting the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David, for inviting me. Initially, I said yes without thinking where it was at the time.
I caught you on the hop.
But in hindsight, I was supposed to be in England this week, but I postponed my trip till next month. So therefore, I still I still am committed to this. And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed myself. And look, 1 hour passed by and I didn't see it coming.
Yeah. Sara.
Wayne, thank you so much. I've just hit something that I wasn't where I was. Right. Okay. Now I've just put your website address into the live chat, www.mystic-traveler.com. So, folks, for those of you watching live, it's there. For those of you that are watching the replay, the recording on YouTube, please, you will find Wayne's website address and all of ours underneath in the information below the video. Please, if you feel drawn to connect, do it. We share these programs because we're happy to share the information. We're happy to be connected with. If you're not happy to be connected with, you shouldn't be doing the program. Because we know that we're here to share this energy. And I hope that people have listened to this and they've thought, do you know what? Maybe this is explaining some of what you've not understood in your life before. Be open to the fact that there is so much more to this one life than we actually are aware of. But I think that many of us are starting to open up to that fact that, sort of, if something comes, I say, do you know what? I've just got to do that. it's just accept it, just trust it. The universe speaks to us in many different ways. If that's the way you prefer to put it, our souls are guiding us. So if it catches you in your heart, listen. So Wayne, thank you, because you've opened up, hopefully, people's minds to the fact that there is so much more to this one life than we think there is. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week, I'm being joined, hopefully, by Sunny. And that's what she prefers to be called. So Sunny's going to be joining. Now, I'm hoping she's going to be joining us. I've had trouble getting hold of her. I'm hoping she's not in the Florida area. But I obviously, we all sort of send out really beautiful, positive energies to any area of this world that at this moment is going through, whether it's weather, whether it's war, whatever it is, all those people that require support at the moment. Hopefully she will be joining me to be sharing your prosperity codes within, divine gifts for DNA activation and life transformation. That's a mouthful. I hope you'll think about joining us for that. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you all. Wayne, I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thank you, folks. Light, peace, and love. Namaste, sweet souls.
Thank
Bye.
you.